What do you get when you grab Godzilla and give him the modern day treatment? Simple as that. You've got Godzilla -1. Hi, I'm Jesse.
And I'm Addie.
And we just finished watching Godzilla -1. And this movie was fantastic, to say the least.
That was really good.
To start off with, it has an amazing classic design of Godzilla and classic vibes. The movie as a whole is it throws it back to just OG Godzilla. It's him against people and destruction, and Godzilla himself looks that classic design. So by giving him that modern treatment and just talking about how he looks basically the same, what people have come to know and love about Godzilla, that he's not a T-Rex,
He's got
he's not
T-Rex hands, but
he's not meant to look like a dinosaur. He is given that just classic look, but he looks more real. He's thrown into modern day CGI, and he just looks like
barnacle
treatment. He's got an amazing attention to detail throughout his entire body, and the way he walks and everything. There's an entire style, design language to him and everything that he does, and it was done very well.
I thought it was giving very swamp alligator. He had a cute little snoot nose that made him look kind of like a dumb dog.
Nose.
Yeah, kitty nose. And he was very lumpy and bumpy, and he looked like he was covered in barnacles, which makes sense because he comes from the depths of the ocean. And then another thing I thought was cool was the little scales that he has on his back, but the little spikies on his back stick out more when he's powering up his blue scream.
His atomic breath.
Yeah. Oh, I like blue scream. But yeah, so I thought that was a cool little thing, how you could see it kind of loading up. That's pretty cool. It reminded me of the Scream tanks from Monster Inc. Yeah, how you can see it go through.
And so we've always had that. I don't know if it's always been a loading animation, but I know in the 2014, the one from Legendary, the US has made, it's been a loading animation as well, where it lights up, but the scales don't move.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's an interesting touch on this one, where the scales pop up. And again, this is not, I thought it was a spoiler, but I forgot it's in the trailer. So if you haven't seen the trailer, that's your fault. But the scales pop up as it's loading, and then when he's loaded, it's just well, bam! And it's it's the hammer coming down on a gun. You pull the hammer back, and then when it comes down, it shoots out that bullet. So it's just as they're all coming out, they just go boom. They squish down, and he shoots out his atomic breath. So that's honestly, it was pretty damn cool. It's you might be how does that work?
Suspense.
Why does that need to happen? You know what? It needs to happen for the movie. It creates a suspense because you're oh, here it comes. Here it comes.
I won't spoil my next comment that I was going to say about the ending.
Yeah, so the other thing I really enjoyed was that we get to see Godzilla plenty. I remember when the 2014 one came out by Legendary again, people loved the film, but complained about it. There was barely any Godzilla in it. If I remember, I think it was maybe top 13 minutes or something like that. So that was, although it was great and enjoyable, that was one of the biggest gripes people had. And that's something that is not present in this one. We get to see him plenty, but there is also a big emphasis. He is the star of the show, but there's a big emphasis on the characters as well. And it's not a poorly written script. It's a script with heart and emotion, and they're really well done. It's kind of, we were talking about it in the car, and I was telling her how it reminds me a lot about Train to Busan, how it's a movie you wouldn't expect for there to be for you to kind of get you concerned about characters, or know that there's much at stake. But the acting and the characters are well written, and they deliver their lines so well. It's just, it really pulls you in, and it feels hey, this feels grounded, despite the fact that there's this entirely imaginary creature. But it feels
suspense or belief is suspended. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the drama that they had going on there. That's all I need to get reeled into a dinosaur roar movie. I think he's not a dinosaur monster. I meant dinosaur monster movie.
I do like that they kept referencing that, he looks like a dinosaur.
Yeah. I mean, what else can you compare it to? And then the movie was set in the 40s, so they didn't have a lot of knowledge back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the characters they brought on, and from the very quick Google that I did shortly before this, it seemed like it was a star-studded cast. Everybody was critically, filmly acclaimed
Really?
in Japan, and they've all been in like really good movies. So star-studded cast. I think they
Yeah,
all did great, and
that's their Brad Pitt.
I almost shed a tear.
And yeah, I also love the way that with these past couple of Godzilla films, including Shin, which I didn't see, but I inadvertently watched through like snippets on YouTube. Um, they always have a unique way of taking down Godzilla. It's not just like blast them with tanks and torpedoes and we're gonna throw a nuke at him or something and that's gonna do the job, you know. I feel like with the U.S. we just like to see big boom, which there's plenty of big boom in this film, but
There is thoughtful
that
boom.
that is not the solution. The solution is honestly very unique and well thought out, and which is why I mentioned that this movie is witty because you're like, as they mentioned, I was like, wow, that is a really interesting idea. I would have never thought about doing something like that.
It's just a crazy man with a plan.
Yeah. And so I think that's also especially important, being that this film takes place in post-war Japan. You know, they just got nuked. Japan is starting to rebuild, and then out of nowhere, they have this another enormous enemy as they're just trying to get back into their normal lives. So it's a good way of posing Godzilla as a threat because humanity is at a low point right now. So it's like, where are we even going to get our defenses to fight against this creature? So very unique way of coming up with something to take them down, and the delivery of that and execution of the way they do it is spot on, fantastic.
Yeah, I think those particular scenes towards the end where they're trying to take him down, they had me like gripping the edge of my seat. There's like, I don't know if this is a spoiler, cut it out, but there's like a scene where like there's just two boats and they're like going next to each other and they like scrape by each other, and it's like, are they gonna drown? Are they gonna live? What's gonna happen? And that's like not even like the most important part of that scene.
Yeah.
But they filmed it really well, and then I think the music that they used was very like fitting, and
Yes.
it was like very like not suspensefully, but
it
builds momentum.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does a very good job of building momentum because it is that's another thing I forgot to mention. It is the classic Godzilla theme. It's used twice in this film, and it's done very tastefully because instead of just overusing it and be like, like it's the Godzilla theme, guys, you love it, they use it twice. And it's done at the perfect time because, like you said, it builds momentum, it builds suspense, and you're like, yes, it gets you into like it gets your heart pumping, I guess, you know, into like getting ready for what's coming.
Yeah, there was also
So-
like a scene also at the end where like they have the music and then everything just goes silent, and
Ooh.
the like filming is kind of like slow motion-y because it's after like something happens, and I thought they used that very well because it's like you're sucked into the moment, and then you hear like, I don't want to spoil too much, but then you hear like a tiny little sound, and then it like brings you back in, and then things start happening again.
I love when that happens.
Yeah.
When and it's important that it's done like once to get that execution done right.
Yeah,
You know, because
we only have so much attention span.
yeah, I love it when it's a moment of suspense and it's almost like a vacuum of air that takes out all the sound, and you almost just hear like the ringing in your ear, and you're waiting for what's
I could
coming
hear
next.
you munching your popcorn is what I could hear.
You're waiting for what's coming next, and that is just such a beautiful moment because then the thing happens and you're just like, well, bam, you know.
Whoa.
So very, very well done film. It was a beautiful film to look at as well. The all the environments, the backdrops
Yeah,
of
picture
Japan.
locations.
Yeah,
I even like
everything
the what's it called, the color grading, how everything, it didn't have like a yellow sepia filter to it like they do for like Mexico when they film in Mexico, but
I
it
felt
had
like a bluish one.
I don't know
maybe.
if it was a bluish or if like the things that they were wearing and that they were using were very like monochromatic. Like I felt like they used like a palette for their outfits or like their clothing, and like the color of the planes and the color of the ships and stuff. Or at least that's what post-war things look like in my brain.
A very good job because there's like little tiny details. Very well done. Very good attention to detail. Fantastic, beautiful film to look at. The cinematography was fantastic. I don't want to keep going because I guess we would be hopping into spoiler territory if we just kept talking about this film. But I was very, very pleasantly surprised with it. I had my hopes up already. I'm not like a huge Godzilla fan. I love it because I love dinosaurs. But I did grow up on Godzilla, but I wasn't like, he's my favorite guy. You know,
He's
but
just a little guy.
but I do love Godzilla. I love a good Godzilla film, and this is another excellent entry to the
Universe. Multiverse.
Multiverse of Godzilla. Yeah, because none of these are connected when they come out of Toho usually.
Yeah,
so,
which I didn't know. We had started watching Monarch a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so since that was fresh in my mind, I was like, oh, it's weird that they would release a series and then also a movie about the same universe at the same time. So I thought everything was connected, and I was like, cool, maybe since this is a prequel, we'll get to figure out where like the parents of these characters came from. Did not know they were not connected. Nothing was connected.
Sorry to disappoint you.
To be fair though, you just booked the movie and I just showed up.
Yeah.
I didn't have any expectations. I was just like, great, another 2-hour film in the IMAX theater. But I was pleasantly surprised. I just needed a little bit of like character drama to get into it.
Yeah, I could keep rambling about this movie all day. It was beautiful. I loved it. If you love Godzilla, like Godzilla, or even have an inkling about caring about Godzilla, you're gonna enjoy this one. It's fantastic. But yeah, I think that's enough without going into spoiler territory, because something's gonna spill out, and I'm gonna have to cut it. So, into ratings, I'm gonna give it a solid 9. It's not a perfect 10, only because to my eyes, a lot of the CG looked very. When you buy these packs online, and they're VFX packs that it's like dust or fire or fire embers or something against a black background, and then you just key out the black and you layer that smoke or anything over the screen. So I forgot what these packs are called, but they're these packs. If you know anything about VFX, you can buy these packs online, and a lot of it just looked like if it was slapped on there. So although it looked good, it wasn't bad, but a lot of the particle effects and stuff looked almost repetitive at times. And yeah, some of it was janky. There was one thing about Godzilla that I didn't like, which is what a lot of movies do right. And I think there was like a physicist or some scientist who had said at one point, like if something was way bigger, or like comparing us to a fly, we do move slower to them. So I felt like there was some times when Godzilla moved a little too fast for being that big.
Interesting.
Or it's not about how we look, it's about gravity. That's beyond the point. I felt like he moved a little bit too crisply. It should have been a little bit more lumpy.
Yeah, like I thought like he looked like a robot and his legs were just going. I felt like he would have to like tumble left and right to like walk.
Which was that the walk animation was not too bad for me. I do get what you mean, but that wasn't the part. It was just the part that it was super crisp. I wish it was a little bit more, that it would have felt heavy. It almost didn't feel heavy across the screen. But that's being too critical of it. I still love the film. Solid 9. It's a must watch. But yeah.
I give it like a 7 out of 10. I really did enjoy the characters and the storyline. I thought they showed the monster too much for my preference.
Really?
Yeah,
because I thought it was just fine.
I mean, like we saw him, but like I get the point was to like, you know, see him destroying things and whatnot, but I was just like, can we get back to the story? I want to know what's happening to the people.
Well, at least I'm glad you enjoyed the story, which means it was a good story.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the ending, but I'm not gonna explain that because that would be a spoiler.
It was a good ending, and it's like we were talking about this also, how like it might or might not get a sequel.
Would love a sequel.
Kind of like how Shin Godzilla didn't get a sequel because all these are just like one-offs. But yeah, it leaves you on a good cliffhanger.
Yeah, I do wish, again, since these movies aren't connected to anything, I wish the characters were somehow tied into the Monarch show that we're watching. That's
it? Oh, okay. Yeah. If you've seen Godzilla, hopefully you haven't by the time I upload this video. Let us know what you're expecting in the comments down below. If you've seen the trailers and you're really hyped up for this film, you're gonna get what you're expecting out of the trailers. So if you go and watch it and then come back and see us, let us know what you thought then. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Like this video if you thought it was fun. Dislike it if you thought it was terrible.
Or not.
And subscribe. Let us know what you think. See you next time.
I was gonna mention he has like his blue throw up breath.
Atomic breath, yes.
So that's supposed to be like an atomic bomb, right? Like an Oppenheimer, right?
Basically, yes, because but in every Godzilla it's different. Some of them it's like almost like a laser beam. But you just want to know about this.
Yeah. So when he like burped and made a nuclear bomb, you saw the light flash, but then there was like a couple of scenes where people were like still looking, and I mean they were like close enough to like the blast zone where they should have been like obliterated, and like everybody was fine. Yeah. So that I was just like, after watching like Oppenheimer, and they made it like more realistic, and how like there's like the light and then the wind and then the heat and whatever, I was just like, oh, he just like literally dropped like 3 nuclear bombs, and they're all just like
It also, the one thing that I was thinking about also was just like, they did mention like, hey, it's radioactive what he is. Mm-hmm. He's radioactive. If you touch him, he's radioactive. Mm-hmm. He breathes radioactivity. Mm-hmm. But when he dropped that nuke, no one was affected by like damage to their skin or anything. Like people like who have been near nukes or like in that blast zone and survived.
Yeah, they did show some like wind, and like people were just like
but it's supposed to be like
too bright, but
eating you away almost. Like it's destroying the gamma particles or the particles. I don't want to get to technicalities, but like it's supposed to be like tearing you apart basically, and everybody is just like, ooh, wind. Yeah. So again, suspension of disbelief, but it's kind of like, why'd you bother saying that he's radioactive, but then not make his effect radioactive? Yeah. It's a little thing.
That's a big tangent now. But anyhow,